From the beginning of time, man has been the master of his own journey.
This time it's New York who lauds Amelia as first woman to fly across Atlantic. Amelia becomes first woman to fly an autogyro. But as far as planes are concerned, she's still Amelia Earhart of the airlanes, who will give flight to anything with wings.
Miss Earhart.
Safe as birds in flight, the giant planes of American Airways are setting the new pace of man's progress.
But she'll fly it just the same.
I myself still fly a Schwartzman motor, which has carried me over the North Atlantic, part of the Pacific, to and from Mexico City, and many times across this continent.
I took off the famous Harbor Grace runway at dusk, about 7:30, I believe. After receiving a real Irish welcome, I took a Paramount plane to London. There received a real English welcome.
Before there were there was Lou. Lou befriends William Burroughs at a young age. Burroughs introduces him to David Kammerer. Older than Lou, Kammerer is going to become his friend, and eventually, his stalker. It's 1943. Lou's a freshman at Columbia. Hey, man.
Hey,
Wow, so you're going here now?
I actually have to go now.
Funny we're always at the same place at the same time, yeah? The only people for me are the mad ones. The ones who are mad to live, mad to talk, resolution. The ones who never yawn or say calm inches, burn, ancient heavens.
7 days from next.
Lisa Mariah! They'll probably give me the chair for this.
Ladies. You check it out already? That was a short and sweet visit.
Thanks a lot. We'll see you soon.
Okay, guys.
See you.
Perfect.
Okay.
Thank you so much.
See how good I am to you?
Yes, you're very good.
I just need your initials there. Ladies, how you doing?
How are you?
She is raw. Ladies and gentlemen, I would think so. What's the room number?
611.
Bending your knee and falling. Good. Fall. Yes. Fall. Good. Right side again. Fall. Here we go. Fall. Yes, dive.
Okay. My name is Alfred McAdam. I've been a professor at Barnard College and Columbia University. My interest since graduate school has been basically 20th century Spanish-American writing. I did translation where you have people speaking a mixture of Spanish, French, German, Japanese, Chinese, passing from one to the other. In the 70s, I had a lot of contact with the Cuban exile writers in particular. Cortázar. Yo lo conocí varias veces, and I wrote my dissertation about him, so I have a kind of sentimental attachment. The others are friends. I mean, that's a Cuban writer, Guillermo Cabrera Infante. Cabrera Infante era un gran amigo mío. Fue penoso para mí que se haya muerto. Borges lo conocía bastante bien. He changed the way people write Spanish, basically. It's a little eerie because all of these people are dead now. All of us in New York are going to be speaking Spanglish eventually. Spanish is going to be around for a long, long time. The office is like a junk shop, filled with everything you can think of. And I try to keep it clean. I want the walls to be covered with bookshelves everywhere that's possible. Some of the books here I haven't opened for 30 years and probably will never open again. This is where they live and gather dust. I have 2 levels of chairs here, one for waiting and one for actually talking to me. Wing chair is a good, comfortable chair for reading. Unfortunately, I never read in this office. The rest of the decor, to call it that, is also miscellaneous stuff. Some Mexican masks, like that devil mask up there, and the bunny mask over there, and me over here on the end. It's a little bit of color, in this office, which is pretty dreary.
The thing I like about musicians and being a musician is that they're willing to explore. There's kind of a fascination with just trying things, you know. Uh-oh. I'm in like Macintosh hell. When you choose to be a musician, that's a pretty profound statement, and I think that's how you have an influence on culture and society.
space that I'm in is in so many different places. It's almost endless as to where I would go. I do have an office that I sit at. I have a computer and a telephone, office phone, but I'm really only there 25 to 40% of the day. 60% of the time I'm walking around, I'm interacting with people, I'm meeting with people. My space is spread over 50 different locations, and having a BlackBerry, a PDA is critical to my job, because then I can answer emails, take phone calls, as I'm walking around, interacting with all these different sites and all these different spaces.
Traveling around campus, is the main part of my job. In these small little power plants and these electrical rooms. Heating, ventilation, air conditioning, diffusers. A lot of what makes a building run is hidden. It's in these mechanical rooms, in these small little power plants, in these electrical rooms.
Electric lines, water lines, drinking water, chilled water lines, old analog telephone, 70, 80 years old. So these are all little individual wires from the old telephone systems. These are all wired up, into this board, one place to another.
Compressors, evaporators, waste lines, vent lines, steam, plumbing, hot water, cold water, valves, tanks, pumps, sprinklers, cables, Ethernet, wireless. I mean, I could keep going on and on and on and not stop.
I was the country economist for Moldova in 1991 and 2, or 1992, I guess. Spent several weeks in Kishinev. And it was a time that was very interesting because Moldova had recently become something other than a republic of the Soviet Union. And we were in some ways doing Econ 101 there. I wanted to work in economic development, so that was always a path to doing that. I liked it, studying it when I was an undergrad, and that's an important part of doing anything. I was pretty good at it at the time, in terms of grades and courses and all of that, and then followed on and wanted to study further. I went from there to the World Cup. Worked at the World Cup for a couple of years, then helped start Major League Soccer in 1995 and 6. And when we moved back here in 1996 or 95, started teaching every now and then at Columbia, and then came back full time in 2003. Okay, that's what I needed to know. Thanks. Bye. Am I looking at you or at the camera? Hi, I'm Sunil Gulati, and I teach here in the economics department at Columbia University. Married 16 years to a lovely Mexican woman. 2 kids who are bilingual, 14 and 7. I travel a heck of a lot. My wife went to London for the weekend, so I got the kids on my own. We're good? Perfect. All right, see you later.
Are we recording here? Yes, it says recording. I think I was not recording at first, so I'm going to start again. I'm Stephen Murray, Professor of Art History at Columbia, and I grew up in England. I grew up in churches, essentially. It seems to me buildings invite a kind of compulsive looking. Here we are looking out of my office window in Skermerhorn at St Paul's Chapel. I'm in this office mainly because of that view on St Paul's, and I can watch the cherry trees in the spring coming out and the blossom, and here we are in the autumn and the last stage of their leaves. Here I am riding my BMW, and here is my old bike. This is not as frivolous as it looks, although I love motorcycles. When I started my PhD work on Gothic architecture, this was the way in which I travelled from building to building with very little money. And somehow the process itself of the work in the field, it insinuates itself into your blood in an astonishing way. We're at the level of the cornice that runs and then the moulding that frames the great rounded window. It's about halfway up, and a building loves to be seen from halfway up. This is Christopher Columbus Award. Ugly little statue, isn't it? This was the recognition for the first really big successful digital project that we did, Notre Dame of Amiens, parts 1 and 2, and it had in 1994, when it first came out, a smashing success. My work right now is very much to do with objects of desire. The building, in a sense, is an invitation to tell stories. The job of the art historian is to represent the work of art. Representing a complex building is the most difficult thing to do in words. A book has a limited ability to convey sumptuous illustrations. You can do it through line drawings or photographs, but on the written page the building quite simply dies. We play with cinematography as a means to represent the building, as the closest means, in fact, of allowing the building almost to represent itself. And the whole notion that you could allow a building to star in its own movie, where the interlocutor, the person that stands in front of the building and points and talks, plays a fairly unimportant role.
So this is probably the oldest poem we have in the Anglo-Saxon language. Oh, no, it's not. Yeah, this is one. Nuschlen herian herfanriches word. Methodes merta and as modjethank werk wulder faders wa he wundrewas eche drichten or astelda. He arast shop ilda verenum hervan de grova halli shipvend. Dam middenjerd man kennas werd eche drichten aftertelda firum and he's writing in Latin. He's writing these in Latin. But then he tells the story of a cowherd who works for a monastery, a double monastery of men and women. And everybody's sitting around the fire and they're all singing religious songs. And he's so embarrassed because he is ignorant, he's uneducated, that he kind of retreats and he goes out and he sleeps. He goes to sleep in the cow barn, the cow byre. And he gets woken up in the night and somebody says, sing me a song. And he said, I can't sing songs. So here's this book that's 726 pages, which may strike you as long. A Reader's Digest condensed version, because he was working out of these. He read some English Arthurian stories, English poet verse versions, but mostly he read prose in French from the 13th century. More elaborate. Oh, that's just another figure of royal largesse. So there's a king and a bishop at a banquet table, and he's handing presumably a little bit of food down to this young criminal. And here, you see these images of hand trestles all over medieval art, and apparently what he would do is just drag his body along the ground. I've been sent pictures of crippled people in Bangladesh using hand trestles. And here's Fortune's Wheel. So you've got this king who's in triumph right here. Interestingly, looking very like in his fancy hat, fancy beaver hat, looking unnervingly like the patron of the book. Who's about to fall off. Here's the guy at the bottom with his clothes all torn up. He's entirely impoverished. And here's the guy who's just coming up. Nice clothes, fancy new dress hose, looking even more detailed. You've got this one little guy, right? He's right here. Little guy right there. And he has lost both legs. It's as if he's a survivor of this kind of carnage that you see as a cost of the fall. So that's kind of the search I've been doing, is trying to figure out, I mean, in the bigger picture, it's like an effort to see, to kind of identify a past for, at least to know that there's a history lurking back there.
Have you guys seen Joan?
No, not yet, but if you wait here for a little while,
she usually is camped out over here. Maybe she's already there.
Joan Snitzer is a professor, advisor, and probably a mentor to many people. She's also the director of the visual arts department and a lot of other things. She's actually an underground tango dancer, which I didn't know until I was with her in Berlin this summer. We met up when I was living there. She took me out with her, which was a really hilarious experience.
I have class with Joan now, so I'm going to go hunt her down and try to get some good footage of her. But yes, it's very difficult, and I'm doing my best. Do you know where Joan is? Yes.
I don't know where she is.
There she is.
I was wondering if you could quickly paint something that represents you.
Something that represents me, okay.
When I started joining some of these women artist groups who really wanted to know what I was thinking and what I was creating and why, and they were also interested in sharing some of those experiences, the whole emotional feeling was very different, and this huge weight lifted. I think that that's more common now. Certainly a place like Barnard College, that's expected.